To begin this timeline, we would obviously need to start in the future timeline, specifically in age 767, as future androids 17 and 18 begin their attack. In this attack, after the heroes had found out about it, Piccolo, Vegeta, Yamcha, Tien Shinhan, Krillin, and Shotsu all arrived to try to take them on. Piccolo was the first one to be killed by the mechanical menaces, which unfortunately caused Kami to die, and by extension caused the Dragon Balls to disappear. Next to try and attack them was Vegeta. However, instead of him being killed in this timeline, he falls unconscious and just barely holds on to life. After him is Yamcha, which he doesn't stand any chance against the androids either, so he is quickly killed. Next, Tien Shinhan tries to face the android duo, and he meets the same fate as the other heroes. After Tien, Krillin is the next one to fall victim at the hands of the androids. Lastly, Shotsu tries to take them on, but he doesn't stand a chance either and is killed. From here, the future androids would leave, as all the people to play with are seemingly dead. However, back at Capsule Corporation, where Gohan was at currently, he would get a little worried when the other heroes didn't come back. So, he would take off to the island where the heroes went to see if they were okay. Now, we don't know when future Gohan went Super Saiyan for the first time for sure. However, if this wasn't the most likely moment for that to happen, I don't know what is, since the sight he sees there would be a shock to say the least, as all the heroes he grew to know were dead. Especially when he finds Piccolo dead, he would start to go through the Super Saiyan transformation. Assuming it was like when Goku transformed on Namek, the ground would start to shake with stones crumbling at his feet and flying into the air. Lightning would also start to strike around him, as his hair flashed between black and yellow. Eventually, he would completely turn into a Super Saiyan. However, with the violent transformation of becoming Super Saiyan shaking the ground, this would have disturbed the barely alive Vegeta. He likely would have let out a groan in pain, which is when Gohan would eventually notice his presence. When he goes over to Vegeta and sees the condition he is in, he would take him to Korin's tower to try and get him a senzu bean. Also, it's likely Gohan might have dropped out of the Super Saiyan form at this time, since his body probably couldn't stand the strain and he was more focused on saving Vegeta instead of maintaining it. Unfortunately, Korin doesn't have any senzu beans grown right at this moment, so he must take him back to Capsule Corporation. Since the androids are out there in the world beginning their onslaught, Bulma wouldn't risk taking him to a hospital, so they would have doctors come to Capsule Corporation instead to work on helping Vegeta through his recovery process. Also, while he was recovering, Bulma would likely have a bunker/lab made under Capsule Corporation in case the androids ever arrived there to attack. It's hard to say how long it could take Vegeta to recover, especially since senzu beans take a while to grow, but I'll say by the time he finishes recovering, the bunker under Capsule Corporation is finished. Knowing Vegeta, he would likely have wanted to start training again right away, so he might have asked Bulma and her father to build an underground gravity chamber too. Now, the big question here is what's to stop Vegeta from jumping right back into fighting the androids and probably dying this time. However, Vegeta just barely managing to survive this encounter with the androids might have taught him something important: humility. This isn't a lot of humility, but it is enough for him to train with someone, especially after seeing all his friends die and Goku not being around to rely on. Also, after Vegeta got healthy again and told Gohan his plan, they would likely agree to it. The main goal of this training, besides getting stronger, of course, is to help Gohan get control over his Super Saiyan form. So, Vegeta would have Gohan go see his mother, as she would need to know what's going on. However, he'd likely still have them stay up on Mount Paozu, as both he and Vegeta would think they are safer there. In the devastation the androids were causing in the past months, they never once arrived at Mount Paozu. They likely didn't show up there since Goku was dead, so they would have no reason to go there. So, Chi-Chi's basically safe there. She is asked to stay there instead of coming to Capsule Corporation. As much as she hates the thought of this, she would understand why her son is doing what he is. After all, if they don't save the world from the androids, there won't be a world he can eventually become a scholar in like she wants him to. Anyway, they then return to Capsule Corporation to begin their training. Also, Vegeta would have gotten a good gauge of the power of the androids from getting beaten by them, so he would likely know when he would be able to defeat the mechanical menaces. However, his arrogance is still high at this point, so regardless of knowing the power of the androids or not, he would likely try to fight them. So, a couple months into his training, Gohan would have gotten better control over his Super Saiyan transformation. Vegeta would have gotten stronger too, so he would take Gohan with him to confront the androids. Of course, as is to be expected, the two would be beaten to a pulp in the fight. The androids would basically toy with them, but they would leave the two Saiyan warriors alive. After all, no one has challenged them since that day, and it has been a little boring for them. So, they keep Vegeta and Gohan alive this time since they want to continue having fun. After they eventually can get back up, they would go and recover again, but they weren't as badly beaten as Vegeta was the first time. So, the recovery process goes by far faster than it did the first time around. This defeat would again help Vegeta get further down the path of humility, since he was defeated yet again. Though, this time, he also put Gohan's life at risk along with his own. If he and Gohan did end up being killed, that would have left Trunks alone to take on the androids, which he couldn't fight them until years from now, since he is a baby at this time. Which, of course, he likely would not have been able to do this without their guidance. So, instead of Vegeta deciding to train for a little bit of time and fight the androids right after, he would go into training for far longer this time. Also, since Vegeta is smart when it comes to fighting, he would likely have noticed that there was something beyond Super Saiyan. In the actual timeline, it took him 2 years of training in the hyperbolic time chamber to get up to the 3rd grade of the Super Saiyan form. However, he still likely would notice that there is something even beyond it, which we know there is, as Master Super Saiyan would come after getting the 3rd grade of Super Saiyan. In this timeline, without them going to fight the androids, I think they would be able to achieve the Master Super Saiyan form after training for 3 years. This would mean it is age 770 after they achieve it, so Gohan would only be slightly older in this timeline than he was when he fought Cell in the main timeline. However, he would be far stronger than the future Gohan we know. After all, that version of the future Gohan never got past regular Super Saiyan, so when they go to fight the androids after these 3 years, they would be far more than ready to be able to take them down. When they arrive to confront the androids though, the mechanical menaces would still be cocky going into this. They wouldn't know what the two Saiyans have achieved in the past 3 years, after all. When the fight does start, Vegeta would be fighting Android 18 and Gohan would be fighting Android 17. The duo would be shocked about what is happening, as in their minds there is no way they should be losing this. After all, there is no way the two got this strong in the last 3 years, right? It shouldn't be possible, but here they are, now on the other foot of being beaten into a pulp. Vegeta, having gained humility, might not toy with the android as much as he normally would, especially after all the people they managed to kill in this timeline. He doesn't want to risk them getting away somehow and killing even more people. Regardless, after fighting them for a little bit, they were prepared to finish the two androids off. Vegeta would likely be the one to finish off his opponent first, with him using a final flash against Android 18. She wouldn't stand a chance in surviving this blast, and she's basically reduced to ashes, as shreds of her remaining clothing blow away in the wind. Android 17 would be in a state of utter disbelief. After all, there's no way these two weaklings could have just killed a sister. However, he soon snapped out of this state of disbelief when Gohan starts to pummel him into the ground even more. Though, Gohan ends him off in a similar way to how Vegeta took down Android 18. Of course, he uses a Kamehameha instead, also reducing his mechanical opponent into ash. After these androids are defeated, the two warriors would revert to their base forms, relieved that they had managed to take down the two androids. They wouldn't stay down for long, however, as they would have to get back and share the news with Bulma and everyone, which, as to be expected, Bulma would be extremely happy to hear that the androids had been taken down. Gohan would also go up to Mount Paozu and tell Chi-Chi that it is safe to come out of hiding now, since the androids were destroyed. She would just be glad to see her son survived, as she wouldn't know if she could handle both her husband and son having died. Regardless, Castle Corporation will likely make some type of announcement to the rest of the Earth that the androids had been defeated, which, with them defeated, the people of Earth would likely rejoice this fact. However, this period of rejoicing wouldn't last for long, as they have a planet to rebuild. Fortunately for them, since the androids' reign of terror only lasted for 3 years in this timeline, there was nowhere near as many casualties or damage caused as what happened in the future timeline we know. It would still take some time to rebuild, but nowhere near as much time as it did in that timeline. Castle Corporation would be heavily involved in this process of rebuilding Earth, as they would help in any ways they can. Bulma would be seen as a hero of Earth like Vegeta and Gohan were, for her leadership and guidance through this time of rebuilding. Vegeta and Gohan would also be out there helping people with repairs or anything they needed them to do. So, while these repairs go on, this version of the future is in a time of peace, for now anyway. When he is old enough to train, Vegeta and Gohan would try training Trunks to unlock the Super Saiyan form. After he is old enough to train, it's hard to tell how long it would take Trunks to unlock the Super Saiyan form. It would likely take years, but instead of him achieving it at the death of future Gohan like the future Trunks we know, he would likely achieve it far before then. After all, he does have someone far more experienced in the form to guide him through it now. Vegeta being there to act as a mentor to him would make it easier for him to learn how to unlock the Super Saiyan transformation. Also, while the Earth is in a time of peace like this, Vegeta and Bulma would still have their daughter, Bola, in age 780. Unlike the Bola of our timeline, Vegeta would have trained her in case some other threat comes to Earth eventually. The next time the piece of Earth is threatened is in age 788, when Cell would appear. However, the heroes would notice him when news reports of cities disappearing came over the radio. Eventually, Vegeta, Gohan, and Trunks would have checked it out and discovered Cell. He would be shocked to learn that the androids were destroyed, but his shock wouldn't last for long, as the three would be able to easily kill him with a combined blast. Like how Castle Corporation announced the defeat of the androids, they would make a similar announcement about Cell. So, after Cell is defeated, the Earth would eventually finish being rebuilt, and the population would start to grow again, since the Earth is once again at peace. Though, this time of peace only lasts until age 795, when future Babidi and future Deborah arrive on Earth. Unlike the Vegeta of the main timeline, he wouldn't let Babidi control him, since the motivation of fighting Goku wouldn't be there. While they likely would have an easier time fighting Babidi and Deborah since they're stronger, they likely are given advice from Shin on how to beat Deborah. If they didn't already unlock Super Saiyan 2 after defeating Cell, they likely would have accessed it during their training with Shin. During the time they were training with Shin, Babidi and his minions likely would have wreaked havoc on Earth. After they finished training with Shin, they would then kill Babidi and Deborah, thus preventing Majin Buu from waking up. Capsule Corporation would announce that they thwarted the awakening of Majin Buu, as they then set on repairing the damage Babidi and his minions caused, which was nowhere near as much destruction as the androids caused over the years, so it doesn't take them long to rebuild this time. Another thing to mention about this timeline is the time machine, or in this case, the lack of a time machine. Since Vegeta and Gohan defeated the androids, Bulma never had to make the time machine, so they never went back in time, which, this means Goku Black never appears, as he only came around from Trunks' tampering with time. This also means that Future Beerus is still alive, as Future Shin wasn't killed by Goku Black. However, he wouldn't come to the Earth in this timeline. It's a weird thing to think about the future somehow affecting the past, but for the Oracle Fish to have had the vision about Goku becoming the Super Saiyan God, Goku would have had to have been alive after the android attack, but since he is dead in this timeline, the Oracle Fish wouldn't have had this vision. So, while Beerus still wakes up to destroy planets over time, he never comes to Earth. It's likely that Trunks still would have met Mai, but since there's no threat that they had to worry about, they might have developed a relationship and gotten together at some point. It's also likely that Gohan and Bola would have gotten with someone too and settled down. Regardless, with Vegeta, Gohan, and Trunks being much stronger than usual, and Bola being around as well, they're able to keep peace in this timeline for the rest of their lives. Speaking about the rest of their lives, they would finally be able to rest and do what they wanted to. Bulma would eventually retire from Capsule Corporation and pass it on to both Bola and Trunks. Since she and Vegeta wanted to relax, they would go on a lot of vacations, both around the Earth and through space. As for Bola and Trunks, they would both oversee Capsule Corporation, so they would work on running and expanding the business together. As mentioned earlier, Trunks would have settled down with Mai, and Bola would have settled down as well, so they would both have families of their own. Then with Gohan, since he finally had a chance too, he would become the scholar he always wanted to be. Eventually, he would release books and research he did on Ki and martial arts, but he also researched other topics too, like biology. Regardless, after they eventually pass away, Vegeta, Bulma, Gohan, Trunks, and Bola are all remembered as great heroes of Earth.